Bosh! We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Hotspur Huddle is here, and with me tonight, I have the amazing Wes. Wes, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, not 100% fit, unfortunately, Gaffer. Probably running at maybe 60, 65, 70 at a push. I've had a massive, just kind of come over with a massive sort of illness, like literally today. So I've been wiped out pretty much all day. I had plans and everything, they've been shelved. But I'm going to try and power on through because it's like one of my favorite times of the year. So yeah, it's nice to jump on a podcast for a change because I know I've taken a bit of a back seat from them all in recent weeks. So yeah, looking forward to this one for sure.
No, defo. Like I say, I haven't really been on the Tottenham content for the last couple of weeks. It's been quite nice to have a little bit of a break. I know there's been a few signings that we're going to go into more depth tonight, but it's actually nice to be back on a live. So I'm looking forward to this one. But like always, this channel or this show, shall I say, is sponsored by the amazing Kōta. So Wes, go ahead, do your. Boom. So make sure you go check out Kofa. But like I say, welcome to everybody that's tuning in. It's nice to see you all in here, so welcome. And let's jump straight into it because I have tried off air not to butcher this guy's name because obviously the first sign that we kind of did was Kota Takai, a defender from the J League, I believe. So what have you kind of made of obviously that being one of our first signature signings of this summer window?
Yeah, I'm going to be really useless in this bit because I guess me, like most people, had never heard of the geezer, to be honest. And I think, unfortunately for that player, it was around the time that Levy and Vinay came out in that interview and said, we want to win the Champions League and we want to win the Premier League. So, with that in mind, you then sign somebody from the J League and you're then a little bit confused because you're there like, well, you know, it's not a inspired type of signing. Having said that, I think he's coming, with some good reviews and everything else. So, for somebody so young, I think what is he 20 to already be, a full international at this stage. So, that kind of says a lot in itself. And one of our former players, Kazuyuki Toda, which is a name that is gonna send shockwaves down the spines of many Spurs fans because they might be reliving some nightmares because he wasn't that great for us. But Toad has given him a glowing report as well. So who knows? He might come in. He might. I personally give it 6 months and then he goes out on loan somewhere. But who knows? He might come in and hit the ground running. But like I said, I don't know too much about him as a player. But yeah, I don't know if it was like a club policy signing or a signing with the new manager in mind as well. So that's a bit of a strange one for me on that one.
I think that was the timing as well. It was just kind of on the cusp of Ange going and Frank coming in. So yeah, it was interesting. But like I say, he's young. Hopefully, hit the ground running. He's had a lot of high up, not high up talks about him. I can't get my words out already. But a lot of talk about him in terms that he is decent. It'll be interesting to see if he can kind of make that jump from the J League to the Prem. But I'm sure he will be able to, and I think we'll be backing him and rooting for him anyway. Which kind of leads us on to the next one because it's been a lot of fun winding up a team in London that seem to think we're their biggest rivals because they haven't really got anyone else. And that is the signing of Kudus. What have you made of that man coming to Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah, I mean, kudos to the club. See what I did there? For getting this one done. Yeah, the fume from West Ham fans on Twitter has been absolutely generational. So I'm now in this opinion that I genuinely don't care if Kudus works out or not, because like I say, the fume from West Ham fans has been, quite something. Really, I think I want to say the only reason West Ham kind of consider us as their main rivals is because they don't get many opportunities to play Millwall. And it's like the authorities seem to do their best to ensure that West Ham and Millwall don't play each other in any cup games. So then it's like they need to sort of, I don't want to say pick on somebody else, but they need to kind of go for somebody else. And I guess we were probably the club that they felt they could get closer to, out of the sort of London clubs, realistically. I mean, if we get anything like the Ajax version of Kudus, I think we could be onto something. If we get the West Ham version of Kudus, I'm a little bit unsure, because everybody's really hyping up this particular signing, but let's not forget he had an absolute stinker last year, like the whole of West Ham did. And I get that, but Jared Bowen was in that West Ham team, and you could argue he was still a shining light in that team. And I think the biggest thing for me with Kudus is he's 25, and I feel like we're paying for potential still, which is a real worry when, like I say, you take his age into consideration. I feel like when you pay that amount of money for somebody of that age, I don't want to say finished article, because there is still going to be some room to grow in there, but you want to feel like you're getting, what you're going to get. And I feel like we don't know what we're going to get, because he's been really inconsistent for West Ham. Has shown flashes of absolute brilliance, but then has gone missing and has gone hiding in games, because I don't know why, but I don't know if it was because West Ham were in a bad time, in a bad place, or whatever. Obviously, they had that transition, from Moyes into, Lopetegui and etc. That didn't obviously work out. And now obviously transitioning into Potter, but yeah, I don't know what we're going to get with Kudus, and that's the biggest thing for me, because like I say, he's 25. You paid 55 million for him, and he's not young anymore. Really, we should know. Okay, we're spending that amount of money. We know what we're going to get. He's going to be a game changer for us. Whereas, like I said, I don't know still what type of player we're going to get.
No, it will be interesting. But like I say, hopefully we kind of get those flourishes that he had at Ajax. And also as well, the biggest thing for me was the fact that he wanted to come to Spurs. And I like the fact that our social media team picked up on that. And I know like it's a very small thing for us Spurs fans to hear a player say, "I only wanted Tottenham," is a big thing for us.
Yeah, I think you always want a player to want to play for your team. I think the fact he said he only wanted Tottenham is interesting. Obviously, stunk out the place at West Ham a little bit to kind of force that move. But yeah, I think from that point of view, it's positive. Obviously, he said when he was doing his medical, when the doctor went to check his heart and stuff like that, he was like, "Yeah, you'll find Spurs in there." So yeah, it feels like he wants to be there. He feels like he's ready for that next step and that next challenge. I think obviously the Champions League pool is a big one for him. Obviously, it's a big one for us in terms of getting players in, but it's a big one. Players obviously want to play in the Champions League, and we can offer that. But yeah, at the same time, obviously, I can't almost forget that he took Mickey van der Ven out and out half the team earlier on in the season, and was part of a really poor West Ham team that I think everybody was expecting a lot better from last season. So yeah, there's a little bit of to and fro, and I can see the pros and why we signed him. Obviously, his versatility will come in really handy. He can play off the right, play as a number 10 in those sort of central positions. Has spent a little bit of time as a number 9 as well, and a bit more of a false 9. Wouldn't say off the left is his best position, and I think I've seen some people in the comments saying about he was played out of position. Well, it was because I think you could argue Bowen was probably played out of position more than Kudus, because I think Bowen's best work is off that right hand side. Kudus's best work is off that right hand side. So I think West Ham tried to play Bowen a little bit more through the middle to accommodate Kudus and Paqueta, and I think it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I can see the pros as to why we've bought him, but then also there's a few doubts still from me.
No, I'm with you. And it is nice that Mickey Van de Ven and him seem to have made up. That did also make good viewing.
With the help of James Maddison in the canteen as well, I might add.
But no, like I say, the fact that we've got players that come into Spurs that want to be there is a
Mhm.
big thing for me, because there's been many seasons where we've had players that don't necessarily want to be there or don't want to join us, end up joining us anyway. So I'm pleased that he is there. But talking about players that could be potentially joining us, we've got Mr. Morgan Gibbs White. Seems some things seem to be taking a little bit longer than expected. And I don't know why. Wes, fill me in.
Yeah, got full Craig David here. I'll fill you in. So, yeah, basically, from what I can make out, because there's a lot of moving parts to this situation. So, Morgan Gibbs White had a release clause in his contract that apparently wasn't common knowledge, which is really strange. And Forest aren't happy that it's now been made public knowledge that he has a release clause. But the thing is, if there is a release clause with Morgan Gibbs White, it's in his contract. His contract is a legally binding document. So there is going to be people that do know about it. There's going to be his agent is going to know about it. Forest are going to know about it. Yeah, it's I think gone are the days with transfers now where it's club to club directly. There's always, especially now with the role of an agent, and I know a few. I was actually speaking to one over the last couple of days to try and see if I could get a little bit of info with regards to this situation. Um, my feeling is that the deal will get done. Forest are just trying to stall it. I think what's been made abundantly clear now is that Forest have realised they've got more than a £60 million player in Morgan Gibbs White, so they want more than 60 million for him. Whereas Tottenham are going, well, we know we can get him for 60 million because that's his release. So guess what? We're going to bid 60 million. How Tottenham know about that is the murky waters. So potentially an agent somewhere, or that as they've inquired about the player, and somebody's gone, yeah, you do know you can get him for 60 mil. It's not really out there, but there is this in his contract. So somebody somewhere has gone, bang, with that level of information. I think that's why Forest are kicking up a bit of a fuss and grassing us up. But obviously, Marinakis is a massive grass anyway, as Crystal Palace fans know at the moment. So yeah, I'm just waiting for him to take Brentford to court over Amari Hutchinson's release clause that he's got at Ipswich. So it just feels like now anybody that has a release clause or anybody that's going to bid for a player, there's going to be so many comments, especially on Twitter, going, "Oh, does Marinakis know about this? Like, is it legal?" All of that kind of stuff. But yeah, my gut feeling is that we will sign Morgan Gibbs White eventually. It's just taking a little bit longer because Forest are trying to dig their heels in and effectively get a little bit more out of Tottenham. I think as well, there's a lot of talk about the structure of how the 60 million is going to be paid, whether it's paid in installments or whether it's all up front. But I think there will be some resolution. I think Gibbs White is in an interesting situation. Does he really stink the place out and try and force his move? If he does that, then Tottenham might go, well, actually, you know, we could get him slightly cheaper, because obviously there's rumours that he's been offered a new contract and has turned it down because he might, he's trying to seek a new challenge, etc., etc. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this, but my feeling is that it will get done. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But what I would like to see from the club, Tottenham's point of view here, is go, okay, yeah, we'll keep that one there. Say like it's on the hob at the minute and it's on ring, like the back left ring, and it's simmering away. Get some other players in or get some other deals done on the other rings of the hob, and we'll come back to that one once we know it's cooked effectively.
Because that's the only thing. That's my only worry, is that with Spurs we get very fixated on one player, it doesn't kind of work out, and then we're screwed. And I know that's not actually how it works, but I can kind of feel us kind of going into that kind of slump, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think obviously now we've got Paratici back, I don't see that happening. So it's quite ironic actually that Paratici's just come back from a worldwide ban for 30 months or whatever it was for some dodgy dealings, and then literally within the space of a few months of him coming back, we're getting threatened with legal action by Nottingham Forest over some dealings. So yeah, Don Fabio's at it again by the sounds of it, potentially. Although I know these deals don't happen, like that. This is probably something that's been, a few months at least in the pipeline. So yeah, it's one of them. Like I say, keep Gibbs White there, simmering away, and let what's going to play out with that one. But let's go and get some other players in, and let's try and address some positions that still need addressing. I think there's probably two more that I can think of off the top of my head that definitely need addressing at Tottenham this summer.
It feels like we've been doing this podcast for so long, but we've actually had a little break. So that's a brilliant segue into the next bit, Wes, because I was going to ask you, who are Spurs going to be looking to get in on those other kind of hobs, so to speak?
Number six is a primary one for me. My love for Adam Wharton. I invested in Adam Wharton stocks fairly early compared to most, and but again, I think Palace, no obligation to sell, so it makes life difficult. They're going to want top money, makes it difficult under, well into a contract, again, makes life difficult. Palace have Europe, makes life difficult for us now. If they didn't have Europe, it might be a bit easier. Obviously, they've got Eze, they've got Gay that they might potentially look to shift. I think probably one of those three is going to go. My gut feeling is that it probably is going to be Eze, maybe Gay, but it depends. I think Gay will only go if Konate leaves. That's my gut feeling on that one. And so Wharton then is going to be at Palace for perhaps another year. So yeah, I think number six, there's rumours that we like a player at Brighton, but no one knows apparently who this player is. And obviously, if we are looking for that number six position, Carlos Baliba is probably up there. I've seen somebody saying Angelo Stiller, going to cost an absolute fortune, and you've got Bayern Munich sniffing. And when you're a German player and you know that Bayern Munich are there, you tend to end up at Bayern at some point. But Stiller would be great, but I can't really see it. So maybe there's a little rogue one thrown about, someone like potentially, I know I've spoken about him again about 18 months ago, in Hayden Hackney from Middlesbrough, who's got a little bit of legs about him as well. Perhaps not the traditional six, a little bit more box to box, but I think, again, profile wise, I think he would do really well at Tottenham. And there's rumours again that he might be away this summer, so there's a player that we could look at. Again, the downside is shopping in the Championship. It's like, again, not really an inspired type of signing, but one that could come in and do a half decent job, I feel. And I feel like the other position for me is just a left-sided defender. With a little bit more experience. Obviously, Takai coming in, we don't know what he's going to be like. I think we're pretty stacked in terms of centre backs, but just a left-footed one would be great for me. And somebody that can maybe cover left back as well. So someone like Hincampe, who I've spoken about previously, and Joral Hato would be my top two picks. Hato would probably be the one. And he's got real leadership as well. I think he was captain for the Dutch team in the under-21s tournament and as well. So, he's been captain of Ajax at sort of 17, 18, similar to Matthias de Ligt. But, let's not talk about de Ligt's career trajectory, because that's gone absolutely south very quickly. But yeah, Hato's also on the radar of Chelsea, which usually when Chelsea get somebody on their radar, as we know at the minute, they are willing to just go sod it, bang, we'll have that one. I think João Paulinho is an interesting one there. Seems to be surplus to requirements at Bayern Munich, but for me, age-wise, I can't see the club going for him, because I don't think he fits the age profile and the age bracket that the club look for in terms of recruitment. So yeah, me personally, I'm ruling out João Paulinho in that sense, just because I don't think he's going to be a player that fits what we look for now. It seems like the club have gone very data driven, players under the age of 25 as well, I believe. So, I mean, that's near enough a modern recruitment model. It feels like every club is doing that in terms of signing players under 25. And then if there is one that becomes available that's a bit of, I wouldn't say a surprise, but comes out of nowhere in terms of being available on the market, then a club will go for it. But yeah, I think for me, I feel like Wharton, Belieber, Hackney in that sixth position, and then Hato or Campe in that left sort of centre back, can cover left back um, position. So I think somebody maybe to come in and basically be another Ben Davis. Although I do like Ben Davis, but I just feel like his time is just slowly coming to an end at Tottenham. Although I did see him walking into the training ground today, and he looked like he'd just done a shift in an office in the IT department. So yeah, he needs to sort his drip out. To be fair, there's Ben Davis, but no, I think he's been a cracking servant, but just feel like we just need that little upgrade now and that next step.
And talking about obviously bringing players in, players obviously have to go the other way.
Yes.
And there's been one that obviously has been circulating just about maybe 20 minutes ago in terms of Richarlison potentially going out the door. What have you kind of made of that kind of theory of him leaving this summer transfer window?
Yeah, I think it's a good time. I think it's a good time for him to move on and for us to part ways. I think he's done okay, but I wouldn't say anything more than okay. He's a player that I think he's got that. I'm going to say it's Soldado syndrome in the sense of fans love him, but actually what he's delivering on the pitch isn't necessarily what we all hoped for. So that's why I use Soldado as that reference, because we bought him, fans' favourite straight away, thought he was going to be absolutely mustard, and it turns out he wasn't, and didn't give us what we needed at that time. Been plagued with injuries, and I just feel like now, we're in 4 competitions next year, or this coming season, should I say, and I feel like we're going to need players that we know we can sort of rely on and count upon. And I just feel like Richarlison isn't that sort of player anymore. Shame, because I don't really feel like he got, I wouldn't say a fair chance, but enough of a chance, probably because of the injuries, to really cement himself within the team. Like even season before last, playing like near enough one game a week, and he couldn't stay fit.
Mm.
So, and then we're coming into like the season just gone, and it was like very stop start for him again. But then he puts in an absolute shift in the Europa League final and is arguably one of our best players on the night. But yeah, I just feel like now is the right time to move on from Richarlison. But yeah, I think there's him that probably needs to go. I think he's probably the one that we could probably fetch the biggest fee for. But I definitely feel like there's some others in there that we could look at shifting. You look at potentially Basuma, Brian Hill, Manor Solomon, in particular, that we need to try and shift. And then I look at potentially some younger players going out on loan: Alfie Dorrington, Ash Phillips, Jamie Donnelly, Josh Keeley, who I think has been linked with a loan move to Luton, which will be really interesting. So yeah, there's a few. I think Lancashire needs another loan as well. So yeah, I think there's some room for manoeuvre, but I think trading wise, we've got to start shifting to maybe make room to get another one in or a couple in.
I think that's the thing as well, because I think the reports of Basuma potentially leaving, there was a few of them the other day, and then it was kind of like, no, he doesn't want to leave. And it's kind of like, yeah, I know, because you've just won a trophy at this club. You're like, but it comes a point in your career where sadly the club, if they need to move you on, they're going to move. How hard do you think it is to try and move a player on that just doesn't want to move?
That side of it is really difficult, really, really difficult. And I think if anybody is unsure about how hard it is, the example I can give right now is Man United.
Mm.
Chelsea seem to have got it right in the sense of you look at someone like Madueke, barely been, well, I say barely been there 5 minutes. He's been there, what, a couple of years? Bang, out the door, straight away, bosh, 50 mil, lovely. You look at United and they can't get rid of Sancho because nobody wants to pay his wages because he's on over 300 grand a week, basic wage. Rashford's on over 300 grand a week, basic wage. So nobody wants to pay that. Garnacho's been told he can leave. Malassia's been told he can leave. Anthony's been told he can leave, but nobody wants them. So then you're in a situation where, and I think United are in this now, where those 5 players I've just mentioned are effectively in the bomb squad. So their training's completely separate. They don't even mix with any of the first team players, etc., etc. And it can prove really difficult. But sometimes as a player, if you don't necessarily want to move and you're happy and you're settled, you will stink the place out. You will literally just go, all right, I'll sit here on whatever money I'm on, and I've got no issues, no qualms with that because those guys have earned it and somebody's actually offered it to them. And I think anybody that watches, listens, or does anything to do with football in some way would absolutely swap with those players in a heartbeat, right? So some players just go, do you know what? I'll sit here because I know I'm going to outlast the manager.
Mm.
And it's as simple as that. It's a really bad way of looking at it, but players do that sometimes. They go, do you know what? I'm not having this manager, and I know exactly what's coming. If I sit tight, they'll probably be having these conversations as well with their agent, because it's like, okay, look, club are trying to move you on. Do you want to go? No, I'm happy. All right, sit tight. Time might come. If not, you might outlast the manager because, especially Amarim, he's under some serious pressure, especially with the way United finished last season and in the manner they did as well. So yeah, I think it's really difficult to actually sell players, and everybody goes, "I'll ship them off to Saudi now because they know there's a big market there." Well, 10 years ago, it was ship them off to China or the MLS. That market for those players now has dried up, especially China, and that market shifted to Saudi. But Saudi are now have pumped everything in straight away, and similarly they did to China. And I think all of a sudden now it'll quieten down to the point where you're not going to see 20 odd players moving from Europe into Saudi. It's not going to happen. They're going to be a bit more calculated in terms of who they get. But yeah, honestly, moving a player on and even getting a player in sometimes can be really, really difficult. I think when you get a player in and you've agreed everything, and then the phone call comes last minute, now deal's off, and you're just about to send a fax in, deal's off. Oh, mate, we've got everything sorted. What's going on? Yeah, the wife don't want to move. Bosh, deal's off. So you then have to go again on to target 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why clubs have short lists of players in every position. But yeah, I think to answer your question, it's really difficult, and I think some players can just stay where they are, stink the place out, will end up probably outlasting a manager. It's happened so many times at different clubs, and I'm sure it will happen again, whether that be at Tottenham. I think we could argue the examples of Aurier and Dembele, potentially in recent times from a Spurs perspective. We end up tearing up their contracts. Like, when do Spurs tear up a contract for somebody? It never happens. So I think the only reason we tore Doherty's up is because we maxed out our permitted loans. So we was like, do you know what? We'll tear up your contract and you can go sign for Atletico for 6 months. So yeah, it's not easy, and I don't envy anybody in that position.
No, defo. And I think that's the thing. It'd be interesting to see what kind of happens over the next couple of weeks in terms of players and stuff. I'm going to bring up Evo's here. Do you think Son should go now?
Yeah, yes. I said it a year ago, and nothing's changed. He needs to go because he's not the same player anymore, and we need to cash in while we can. Else, we're going to get in a situation where he walks out the door on a free, and that's not what we want. I just think Son's performances last year was a real shadow of him as a player. Don't get me. Am I buzzing for him that he's won a trophy? Well, I'm buzzing for every player. I've got somebody that I know in the Tottenham team that won a trophy. So, it's one of them. But yeah, I think Son should go, but I don't think. Put it this way, I don't think Tell is the Son replacement. The young lad Yang, I think we're still waiting to see what he can realistically do. And then I look at the winger market and I go, actually, is there a direct kind of like for like replacement for someone? I know you never really sign a like for like player. And I only really, for me, think of one player, and that's Karim Adeyemi at Dortmund, but he's going to cost, again, an absolute fortune, and we're not in that premise of spending absolute fortunes on players. It's not what we do. But yeah, I think for me, Sonny should go this year. Whether he does or not, I don't know, but I think his time is up.
I think it'd be nice to leave on a high as well.
Yeah,
Winning a trophy. See
yeah.
you later. Thank you very much. And then who should be captain if Sonny goes?
Do you know what? Give it to that Argentine roughhouse at centre half, Cuti Romero. Oh, because listen, if he can rattle rattle some heads, then do you know what? I'm here for it. He's fried Harry Maguire, absolutely had him on strings in the Europa League final. And do you know what? I actually feel like Kuti leads by example. And I don't think he's the player that everybody thinks he is. He's got this reputation of being an absolute hothead, where I think it's a little bit unjustified, because his disciplinary record isn't as bad as everybody makes out. Put it this way, I think Basuma's disciplinary record at Spurs is worse than Romero's. So, yeah, go on, give it Cootie. Go on, why not? Why not? I'm here for it. I'm here for
No,
it.
it will be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, next season we've got loads of weeks to go until it slams shut to see who's through the door and who's out the door. But it leaves us two more players to talk about tonight, Wes. The
Mhm.
first one being Bale, and the second one I'll leave up to you to say happy birthday to, because it's both of their birthdays today. I will always, forever, be in debt of that man, Gareth Bale, because I still sit here and reminisce the time when he went off the pitch, ran around the player, left the ball on the pitch, and still beat the other side in that night in Inter Milan. But
Yeah.
what a class player. But the other one, Wes, is your fan favourite. Who else's birthday is it today?
It is the greatest of all time. The best player I think I've seen in a Spurs shirt, Moussa Dembele. The people's people, the players' player, Moussa Dembele. And if anybody wants to realize how good he is, just even watch him on Baller League, because the guy was a joke on Baller League. I mean, the midfield that they assembled for the legends on Baller League was Moussa Dembele, Ravel Morrison, and JJ Okocha. Like, those three names alone just scream Baller League. But no, honestly, Moose was just phenomenal. I was even watching the compilation of stuff, like just the gliding past players, the arm across to say, like, no, not today. I just can't, I can't say any more. Like, I run out of superlatives whenever I say about Moose. He's just so good, so effective, and actually, yeah, I think he didn't get his flowers when he played, and I think only now, when people are speaking to pros or players that have played with him in and around that time, they just go, like, best player I've ever seen, best player in five sides, like the lot. So yeah, he's just an unbelievable footballer. And yeah, I wish there was more that I could really say to him. Into, like, obviously with Bale, you had the special moments like the free kicks, and I was at the Lyon game where Bale scored two absolute worldy free kicks. But the worst bit is it's not even the best goal that night, because it's famously Samuel Umtiti's goal that gets all the headlines from that particular game. And I just wish there was, like, more moments like that with Moussa Dembele. But he's a player that, when people went and watched him, they realised how good he was. He's never going to be in the massive, like, highlight reels with goals in top corners, but you need to watch him live. Watch him with your eyes, as we always say on this show, to appreciate how good of a footballer he was. I mean, I remember the North London derby at Wembley, handling Wilshere, Ozil, and Xhaka on his own. I didn't realise you could be that good at football. And then, yeah, it was just, I was just there like, wow, this guy is unbelievable, unbelievable, to the point where I even try, like, I've started loosely playing football again, and it's like, okay, I've got to try and be Moussa Dembele in some way, but I haven't quite worked it out yet. But it's going to take me a bit of time, I think, because I'm getting back into it after a long hiatus.
There you go. There you go. Out retirement, Wes. Jeez.
I
There you
am. I
go.
am. It's a bit more of a social thing for me, so I can get away with it. So, yeah, who knows? I might be up for some charity games if anybody's looking for a centre mid that can perhaps trudge around the pitch a little bit. But yeah, nothing too strenuous. So if there are any sort of, like, proper non-league managers watching, no, it's a polite no, because I can't commit to it. But yeah, I just play for a little bit of a social thing, a little bit of fun, and just trying to get that love back in playing again. But yeah, Moussa Dembele was just so good, so good.
Well, happy birthday to those boys in Bale and Dembele. And I think that kind of wraps things up tonight. It's been a good show. Obviously, we are missing our third party member, Nelson, but hopefully he'll be back with us soon, because I feel like Albert in the chat is missing a bit of Arsenal side chat on the show tonight. But he'll be back very, very
Yes.
But like I say, it's been a good evening tonight, Wes. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Again, apologies there hasn't been a lot of content on the channel for a little while, but it's been nice to have a little bit of a break. But like I say, soon we'll have we're going to be doing a new venture on a Wednesday. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that one. I'm going to keep it under wraps for a little bit longer until we can surprise you all with it. But until then, Wes, let's say our goodbyes. So where can everybody find you doing your thing, Wes?
Yeah, Twitter's at Wezo10. Unofficial Moose Dembele fan account will probably be a Kevin Danso fan account by the end of the season. Probably anti-Thomas Frank as well, because I think the last time we were on here, I went on a very passionate rant about Thomas Frank. So I'm going to leave that one there because we'll end up going into like 2-hour long monologues at this point. And then Instagram's at Wezo32. Hoping to be at quite a few Spurs games this season. I have renewed my season ticket. That was when Andrew was in charge. So yeah, we'll see what happens as the season progresses, probably, because I've got some life-changing news, which may stop my progress on that. And then yeah, anything football coaching related is Kota MK across the socials, or Kickoff Football Academy.
Bosh. So thanks again to everybody that's tuned in tonight. Hopefully we'll be back same time, same place on Wednesday. Friday, if you're into your women's football, me and Albert will be live at, I think it was 8 o'clock. I can't actually remember now. It's going to kill me because I can't remember. But we'll be like Friday to discuss the game that happens tomorrow. You can tell it's past 8 o'clock because I'm missing all my words up. But like I say, thank you again to everybody that's tuned in. If you haven't already, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.